first part of the video will talk about my planners, the second my trackers, which I also introduced in my previous video, so if you want more details please go and watch that. And then I'll talk about my daily journal and my other journals and miscellaneous notebooks at the end. This is my daily planner. The notebook I'm using is, as you can see, the Hobonichi Techo original A6 size, and I've been using it pretty much every day as a rough planner, just so I've got somewhere to put some basic information about my day. And the cover is this lovely cover from Unsodo. I really like this cover, but the only problem is it doesn't fold very well. I think maybe it's a little bit too tight. I've split the page into 3 parts essentially. So at the very top I'm writing what I watch, read or listen to, so my media tracker. And then I use this section as a small to-do, just very simple, and I just wrote here film, video. And then this is very useful this year. I am a backfiller with my daily journal, so what I've been doing this year is writing bullet points about my day. So you can see I just put woke up and read, started filming video, and it's very rough. It doesn't have to be neat. And I'll keep filling that in as the day goes on. And then I've got a spare section here that I'll just fill in with other notes. And then in the front I've just got this little notebook tucked in, one of the free notebooks that Hobonichi gave out one year, I think last year was it, or the year before. And I'm just using this for notes about YouTube. I'm actually using fountain pen in here, which is quite nice. So this is my work planner. I was using a Hobonichi Weeks, but I didn't get on with it, so I changed to the Traveller's Notebook system. I actually also changed from the, I want to say, horizontal weekly to the vertical weekly. I guess this is the vertical weekly, is it? And then I just write what I have to do in the top, the times that I did them in the timeline, and then at the bottom I just write the value of the job. And then all I have in here is I have the first part of the year and then I have the second part of the year. So I'll move into this in July. And I like having them together. It's quite handy to have the whole year. So that's that. The next section I'll be going over my trackers. This burgundy one is for habit tracking, health appointments and exercise. I put my plans on the left and then I put what I actually did in the week, and I need to catch up with this as well. This money tracker is more of a bills tracker. I just write, I have a calendar here, I'll show you a blank one, and then any bills that I have to pay physically, I'll just pop them in the back. So that's very simple. So I think this might be the most exciting part. This is the part that I'm going to go over my journals. I have 3. My daily journal, my media journal and my birdwatching journal. This journal I'm currently going over in separate videos, so if you want to see more detail, keep your eye out for those. How I'm using it is I'm using the 2026 calendar here just to mark off what daily pages I've completed. So every time I complete a daily page, I just cross it off here, and then once I've filled in the entire month, I cover it with a sticker. As you can see, I'm slightly behind in May. April needs a little bit more work. I think I've got 3 days missing, and I have actually got a day missing in February, but I put the sticker there because I was too excited. And then this page I'm obviously have no need for, so I'm just leaving that blank. This section I'm using, essentially every month I'm doing a cover page, and on that cover page are various paintings and pieces of writing. So what I'm doing on this page is I'm just writing down who painted the painting, what the painting's called, who wrote the piece of writing, what the piece of writing's called, etc. Just an attribution page basically, but I've only done January, so I really need to catch up to May. And then the months, monthly pages, a little bit crazy. I'm not sure if I really like these pages. So what I'm doing with the monthly pages is I'm writing what I did. This isn't for planning at all. I'm not writing down things to remember. I'm writing down things that I did as memory keeping. So if I did something on a particular day, I'll add a little sticker and then write what I did. And then any spare photographs, or I'll print out extra photographs, I'll just stick them here. And then fill up the gaps with washi tape and stickers and stamps. This is a little bit more of a cleaner page, I think. I prefer this. This is quite ugly in January, to be honest. Yeah, I don't like that. And I actually changed it for April, so it's a circle. But I don't know if I like that more or not. May's pretty much blank. Yeah, I haven't done May yet. So that's how I'm using these. And then the weeklies, I'm really behind on. You can see some pages I've filled in. I'm basically putting in like my highlights and lowlights, but I'll have to blank this because there's a lot of complaining. And then if there's a sticker that I have, I'll just put that in as well. The ink colours are matching to the monthly colours, so you can see here in February I've got this. I didn't have a darker brown inked up, so I just used this kind of caramelly colour. I'm not sure the ink name. This page is super ugly. I don't know why, I just really don't like it. I just put hobbies that I want to keep, pick or pick back up and leave behind. And yeah, because I'm really trying to, well, this is the hobbies nest. I'm trying to, trying to prioritise my hobbies this year. Although I prioritise my hobbies every year, so I don't know why I'm saying that. But and then some trips that I wouldn't mind going on either this year or in the future. But I think this is too busy. I love these stickers, so that's why I put a lot of them on this page. But yeah, I think it's just too busy for me. And then, as I said, I've gone through the daily pages, and I will go through the rest of the daily pages in a separate video, so I won't go through them here. What I will just say is on the cover page, I'm using it for paintings and writings this year. And on the daily pages, I just talk about my day and put in any photos that I took, wrote about what I did, how I felt, and yeah, I'm using it in various different ways. So I will go over this in more detail, as I said, later on. This is my media journal. I'm currently up to date to January, so very behind in this. And I'm really enjoying using it though. It's basically, again, Hobonichi A6. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm using the Calendex, is it called, for writing down what I filled in the daily pages. I'm using the monthly to fill in what I watched and read and listened to every day. I'm not very good at writing what I listen to, and I don't actually listen to a lot of music because I don't know how much I love music. These days I tend to just listen to music when I'm out the house running or walking, so which is a shame. But if I listen to an album, say for instance, I've got quite a, well, not a sizable record collection, I've got quite a few records now, maybe 300 or so. If I listen to a record, I will put that in here. But as you can see, unfortunately there's not many, but yeah, TV shows, films, books, albums, as I said, they all go in here. And I take the information from my daily planner. The stamps I'm using are just icon stamps from a company called Stamp Marché. So I have got up to April, I believe. And then on these pages, I'm just using these. There's a book tracker, a couple of book trackers that I've cut down to size, and I'm filling that in. I think that needs updating a little bit. This movie trackers, I'm only putting in movies that I'm watching for the first time. So any rewatches I don't put here. I just write the name of the movie, the year it came out, and then my star rating. And then these are my 26 books for 2026, which, as you can see, I'm not doing too well. I've only done 2, so I really need to pick up with that. But I am quite a mood reader, as I mentioned before, so I'm not sure how well I'm going to do with that. And then on the cover page, I'm putting books read using this book shape stamp. And then these stickers, I got 2 sets, the cats and the dogs, because they were both really cute, and I'm using them alternately. And then all of the days read, I put a circle. Unfortunately, I'm not reading every day. I do want to try and do that this year. Read as many days as I can a month, but I haven't been so good. So that's a goal for the next part of the year. And then on the daily pages, I'm not writing the film or TV or book or whatever on the actual page that I watched it, because I want to have, sometimes I need multiple pages to write my thoughts. So what I'm doing is just everything I watched or read or listened to in January goes in January. And then the actual day that I watched it or read it or listened to it, I'll stamp the date here. And then I'll use those icon stamps again here to say what it was. I'll write the title, and then depending on what it is, I'll write a little bit more information here, star rating, and then I'll just put a little picture here. And then, as you can see, I've put a little bit of decoration, maybe a sticker on every page. Particularly books, I have more to say, so you can see here I've used 3 pages for that book. I will actually go through this in more detail in a separate video, so if you want to see more of this journal, I will be putting that up as soon as I can. And then this little book in the back is just one of those Hobonichi notebooks. I don't know if I'm loving it. I've just wrote in here TV shows I want to watch, like my TBR, but I don't know if I'm going to keep this or move it to a different system. I think I want to put it on my phone. At the minute, I'm just, every time I see something, I'll open a page on Google and just keep it open as a tab on my phone. But then if I don't go through and write them down somewhere else, it just clogs up my phone and it gets slow. So I really need to find a better system for that. So that's my media journal. I did actually have another one of these for Commonplacing, but Commonplacing is kind of up in the air at the minute. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep doing it in analogue or move it over completely to Obsidian. That's something, I don't know, I like how it looks in the Commonplace book, but I never pick it up and fill it in. And it's so much easier to link information together in Obsidian. A lot of the stuff that I read has connections that I do want to be aware of and have made clear to me through the Obsidian system does that really well. So I'm not 100% sure, but I will go through my Commonplace. If I keep using my Commonplace, I will show it. If not, I will just show you my Obsidian if there's any interest in that. Finally, I've got my birdwatching journal. I'm using this, it says Toyokan Books here. I basically bought it from the Wild Bird Society of Japan, I think it's called in English, and I'm really enjoying it. So it has, at the beginning, it has a bunch of information about the most common birds in Japan. And then there's some monthly pages that I'm not using, but I might go back and fill in just to say where I went, if I went bird watching on that day. So it goes up to December, and then it has these weekly spreads. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm just writing the birds that I saw and putting in photos of as many birds as I can. This isn't about beautiful photos, this is about just documenting what I saw essentially. So, and then if there's any new ducks, I'll write them in Japanese, English and Korean. So here you can see I went, and then I wrote, so I circled this day because I went, and then I wrote who I went with. So it's mostly just my husband. Well, it is just my husband or alone. I don't go every week, but if I do, see, this is a very full week. Well, we went twice. I went once by myself and once with my husband, so yeah. And then I just put in some stickers and washi tape. I've got so much bird stationery now. I've just been collecting it, so I mostly use it in here. And this, I don't know if there's going to be much interest on this channel, but if there is, I'll go through this in more detail. I filled it up till March basically, so this is a little bit behind, but I've got the photos ready to put in up to April, I think, and I've got a few photos to print out for May, but I'll try and catch up on that soon. And this is kind of the neat version of my birding log. I obviously don't take this out when I go birding. It sounds so sad, doesn't it? Well, I love it, I can't help it. What I've gone back to is this is a new thing I'm trying out, because I had this, what's this called? This size. It's a Traveller's, but it's the smaller size. I was using a little black notebook. I'll put the brand on the screen. But I thought what I could do is I could take this with me. I'd have this little plastic pocket for ephemera. Well, only small ephemera, and then stickers I can stick on here. And then I would use this just for writing down rough notes, and then take this little Uniball one. I don't love this pen because it's an ink pen, and I normally love a biro, but it's quite small, so I'm using it on here with the pen holder. And then I have ordered it, but it hasn't come yet. I've ordered some plain notebooks because I need somewhere to stamp my train stamps, you know, Eki stamp, and then whenever you go around different establishments and museums and stuff in Japan, they always have the stamps that you can stamp, and I think this should be big enough for most stamps. So I can put that in here. So this is another Traveller's. The front part is a one line a day diary that I have not been keeping up with, so I've put it in here to hopefully get me to fill it in. I'm hoping to catch up, and I'm writing in Japanese and Korean just to... Wow, I only did up to the third. That's really bad, and most of it is corrected because I made so many mistakes just for language practice. And then this is what I was going to talk about. This is my stamp notebook. I was using one of these before and I was stamping directly into it, but with the stamps there's a lot of failures, and there's a lot of stamps where they don't have a lot of ink on the stamp, so it either comes out really light or it just doesn't look very good, and I don't want that to be in this notebook. I want it to all look quite nice. I'd rather just not have the stamp if it looks a bit dodgy. So what I've started doing is, you see I've just recently done this cover page. I'm cutting out the stamps. You can see this one didn't turn out very good, but I quite like the stamps. So, and then this was a sticker I bought there. And then on the day that I stamped it, I just put the date. So I'll stamp in here, and then the best ones will be transferred over. And then I can also stamp multiple ones in one go and cut them out and put them in my daily journal as well. So this is a really cool one. I haven't got many in here, to be honest. As I said, I had to get rid of some because they were really dodgy and you just couldn't see what they were. But I will try and be better at stamping. So that's that. This goes under the MISC section, I think, miscellaneous. And I think that's mostly everything. I'm really excited to use this. How do I put that on? I hadn't got a use for this for a long time, and it was just sitting about, so I'm glad that I can get this back out, and hopefully it will work well. And it feels lighter than that. Is it lighter? Well, it's about the same size as that other notebook, but I can also take these little inserts out and just carry the insert as well, which will be a lot more convenient when I'm walking around with my big camera and binoculars and whatnot. And then finally, I just thought I'd talk a little bit about my other study notebooks. So this is a reading and writing notes system that I'm using. I have a system now for when I read a book, while I'm reading, after reading, what to do with the notes that I take. I don't just, before I was just highlighting words I didn't know and underlining, and I wasn't doing anything with it. So now I've decided that I'm going to take the information and put it into my, no, it's not Obsidian, capacities, and or my dictionary my personal dictionary that I'm keeping. I'm not very good at doing this, but it's better than just putting the book back on the shelf and then forgetting about it. So here I've got a bunch of reading lists that I'm keeping. This is my 26 books for 26. LGB books, I should say. There are some LGBT books, T books as well, but the next part is just some notes. So here you can see I'm using this life paper to write the words that I didn't know, or I couldn't tell you 100% what they meant, so I made a note. And then this is Cold Enough for Snow, which I read in February, and then I've just got some really scrappy notes that I will transfer over to my media journal. And then this next section is writing notes. So I have every, I say I want to write a book. I have a few book ideas in mind. Every time I have an idea, I will write it here, and then I will stamp it with the date that I wrote it down. But whether I ever get to it, who knows. Some other writing, and then I've just got some more spare list papers from Plotter. I really like these because you can put your percentage completed from 0% to 100. So if I'm reading, I'm not very good at keeping track, but if, say, I've read 25%, I can cross the first section off. So there's this one, and then this one, this lovely cover I got this year. I'm actually studying, well, I was first of all studying some classical Japanese poetry. I wanted to get back into classical Japanese. I hadn't studied it for years, but I realised this is quite small, so I think what I'm going to put in here is just my general study of classical Japanese, like the grammar and things like that. And then I'm going to use this notebook for actual works that I'm studying. So at the minute, I've only just really started, but I'm going through Ise Monogatari, which is currently under my camera. But it's in an old form of Japanese that is quite tricky to understand. I'm only on the first one. We'll see how far I get. There's 120 or so of these poetry stories, I think they're called. I've just recently read it in English. I finished that this month, so I'm hoping to go back and read it in the original Japanese and go through every single line by line, and hopefully that will help me pick the grammar back up. But yeah, it's really enjoyable. I really like it, going through each line. So here's the original line, and then I write it in a kind of modern Japanese translation. And then I write the vocabulary that I don't know or that I need to make a note about, and then the grammar. Even the grammar's different. And then if you think about how different English was 1,000 years ago, it was even worse, like even more different from modern English. So at least you can kind of read Japanese to a certain extent that was written in the Heian period, it's called. Most of the literature I'm reading, or the poetry that I want to focus on at the moment, is the Heian period, or maybe a little bit earlier, and then hopefully I can move on to the Kamakura period, but that will take me many years, I think, because there's so much Heian literature I want to read, and if I'm reading it in the original, it takes forever. But that's that. So I'm using this lovely notebook, but I realised I don't like using it landscape, even though it is a landscape one, so I'm just turning it over and using it portrait. I've got my planners, my trackers, my journals, and then miscellaneous notebooks. This is way too much, I know, but I'm using it all, and not all of it needs to be used every day. And even though I'm behind, it's one of my biggest hobbies, so I'm quite happy just to sit and catch up in my journals. Like, for instance, my birding journal, my daily journal I get behind, or my media journal. I'm happy just to sit and spend a whole day doing that. So hopefully I can, even if I'm always a little bit behind, I'm always catching up. Yeah, so I'll stop here now, and if you have any questions about anything I've spoken about, please let me know. And also, I will go more into detail into some of these journals, so please look out for that. And I will see you next time. Bye!